Basically what we do is we start off by a walk around, and in my walk around I did notice there's inspection plate screws missing on the belly here and there, and also on the elevator there's a little hanger rash on the back of the elevator. But basically the airframe is in really good shape. It had some long size cam lock fasteners which were sticking up into the slipstream. Sometimes that's caused by this backup plate here is worn out and makes them stick up a little bit. This 206 is a very popular airplane. A new one cost $500,000 or $600,000. Wow. So we'll kind of walk around a little bit. The tires are about half worn on the airplane. And the seats are like new. And it has 6 seats. 2 seats are in storage and haven't been used. They're probably brand new seats. As you can see, I'll put a light on it. It has kind of a basic panel. And the autopilot didn't work quite right. It didn't. That turn coordinator wasn't making the standard rate turn to the left. It was doing it to the right, and the tachometer was vibrating at low RPMs. And the throttle, the mixture control was stiff to use. We're going to come around the other side here. The mixture control, you can twist it to make it cleaner, because the twisting action works good. But when you push the button in the middle and try to push it all the way in, that's where the problem is. Can't quite see it too good. Guess we're not going to show that too good. This 206, most of them come in this configuration with just a rear door for the passengers and one front door for the pilot. So the co-pilot has to get in first. And what we're going to see is the airplane is hanger down. We're going to see if it has hail damage. And to do that, this is a good place to be, where you have the brightness on the outside, and if you come up here, you see what we're looking for. This is rivets, and that's okay. But if you see that type of situation over here, that would be hail damage. I don't see any hail damage. It looks good. Same way with the elevators back here. The elevators are real good. There's a little bit of cracking right here. It's just starting to crack. And here's the little bit of hanger rash that I found on the whole airplane right here. Just a little bit of hanger rash right here. Maybe you could squeeze through there. And as we look down the elevators, we're looking for little dimples, which would be hail damage. I don't see any hail damage. And this is called hanger rash here, where it's been touched up a little bit. And that looks, otherwise it looks pretty good. We checked all the lights out, and the strobes and the PDOT heat, and everything was working fine. We're gonna, right here, there's a little indentation right there. It's very mild. You can probably see it if you come around here, Adam. And if you can see right there, there's a little indentation. It's hardly noticeable. It's important that these drain holes are opened up and not painted over, because if water lays in there, not only will it take the balance out of the controls, but it'll cause corrosion. So we're looking good, but I don't see any of that. Everything looks fine here. And the flight test went pretty good, except the autopilot wasn't working quite right, and the pilot blames it on himself, but he was pushing the right buttons, it just wasn't working right. So this is a 206 that's going to leave the United States. It's going to cross the ocean. It has an American ELT, a 406 frequency, which is the best kind to have. It spots you within 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet maybe. It works through the satellites. The only problem is that the FAA ceased the existence of the company because they found them breaking the rules when it comes to certifying their equipment. And an AD is going to come out on this ELT, and it won't be in, we'll have to take it out of the airplane. But the airplane will be in Africa by then. So it's a real good thing to have when you're crossing the ocean in case you because as you know, in the regular ELTs are on 121.5, the guard frequency, which is the emergency frequency, and the satellites don't pick up that frequency anymore. So what happens if you're crashing near a control tower, you're okay. Or maybe an airline flying over monitoring the guard frequency might catch you. But this ELT, matter of fact, I talked to somebody last week, and he forgot you're only allowed to test it at 5 minutes past the hour, on the hour and 5 minutes past, and he tested it in his closed hangar. And 5 minutes later, he got a phone call. That's how good it works, because you have to register this ELT with your phone number and everything. So that's about all I can tell you about this airplane right now. It's as close to a new airplane as you can get, being 10 years old. Sealed around the shroud tube for the oil dipstick. See right there? There's some oil there. It looks like it's coming from there. And unfortunately, this airplane had a cylinder replaced, and that's not good. It's common, but not good. When you replace one cylinder, it loosens the torque values of the case, because all the cylinders are torqued in a certain sequence to make sure the seams of the case and all the main crankshaft bearings line up okay. So once you take a cylinder off, you undid that sequence of torque events. But it's common to take one cylinder off, but it's not desirable. But I don't see any leaks around the cylinder. Looking for burnt spots on the cylinder. The paint's discolored or whatnot. And this cylinder should have blue stripes on it, which means it's a nitrated engine, which is a hardening of the cylinder walls. This airplane has an unusual problem of alternator problems. And probably the reason is the alternator is right here in the open where it's exposed to all the weather. But it's been having alternators every 300 or 400 hours. And the older 206s had the alternator in the engine, in the accessory compartment back here, and they didn't have that problem. So we need to look up the service difficulty reports from the commercial operators and see if they're having the same problem with alternators. And if so, I'm going to just recommend the owner have a spare alternator on hand. Better than losing a charter flight, because the buyer of this airplane takes people on safaris in Nairobi, and he doesn't want to lose out on a charter if he didn't have the part. This has what you call GAMI fuel injector nozzles, which means that they're fine-tuned, and you could run over peak exhaust gas temperatures, which will save some fuel. The jury's out as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure if it's worth saving a little fuel or not. Every time you take one of these cylinders off, it costs about $1,500 to $2,000, because you got to disconnect everything, the induction and all these wires and the exhaust system, and use all new gaskets and rework the cylinder. So being that I had a puff of smoke out of the right exhaust stack, it means that there is some oil in the one of those cylinders, or all those cylinders, in the left side, the other side of the left bank, the right bank of the engine. And that being that it's going to probably overhaul it, it won't do anything about it. This airplane does have auxiliary power reciprocal, but they don't have the cord. That's an optional piece of equipment. Didn't come with the airplane.
If we had the cord, we would be able to test the avionics and stuff on the ground without the engine running.
That's right. It's good for that, and you could hook it up to a battery, or if you have two 12-volt batteries in series, 24 volts. Over here, there's a temporary repair, a stop drilling, a crack. And what needs to be done to make it a permanent repair is to put a backup plate behind it and rivet it on there. So that's what you call a temporary repair to the next inspection. And obviously the next inspection didn't fix it.
You got a little scuff here too.
Yeah, that's
from the tow bar, maybe?
It's scraped right there?
Yeah.
Probably from the tow bar, yeah. And hopefully, yeah, they got beat up a little bit from the tow bar.
Yeah.
And actually, those marks are the gel coat that's on the fiberglass. And it's been, right here is another temporary repair. And that has to be fiberglass from the inside, make it permanent. And then filled in with gel coat for cosmetic reasons. But the fiberglass on the inside will be the structural part to make it a permanent repair.
Now, is that in the airplane manual or is that in the AC 4313?
Yeah, basically, it's in a few places.
Okay.
4313 is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. This airplane came from the factory with a float kit, but not floats. So we have hooks up there, and we have some beefing up of various components. And unfortunately, the original paperwork didn't show that. And I have pictures of the paperwork.
Some more of that mesh. Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Oh, just these little paint, I guess.
Yeah, that's not a good safety.
And this is the same way. The cotter pin isn't in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, this one even looks broken.
Yeah.
Like it's been broke.
The this is just aluminum here, so I just stamped it up pretty good. I don't know if you can get in the tail cone. If you can pull that cover. It's an unpressurized airplane, and that means when you're flying along in this airplane, there's a low pressure inside the cabin, and it's sucking air in instead of pushing it out like a pressurized airplane. Because of the slipstream going over, it causes a low pressure inside the cabin. And guess what? It has exhaust pipes on both sides, and that exhaust gas comes down along the fuselage here. So if these seals are in bad shape and don't seal properly, it's very possible that exhaust gases could be sucked into the cabin and cause carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's something people don't think about. The pilot's door too, you need to check the seals out and make sure the seals are in good shape. Especially on older airplanes, most of them, the seals are in bad shape, and it could get carbon monoxide poisoning. And don't, if you have one of them little dots that turn a color when you have carbon monoxide, you're dead by the time it turns a color. So don't believe that. They do make a real good carbon monoxide tester. It's about $600, and you can bolt that on your airplane. Some people wear an oxygen sensor on their finger. And we're going to extremes now, but some people do that, and they can tell if their oxygen count is low. And you could buy one of them for $20 in Walmart. Look in all the pockets, you might find some secrets. So when checking an airplane out, always look down, because you're looking for pilot's notes. It tells you what's broken in the airplane. Those are easy squawks to find. Either it could be a factory defect, or it could be that there was some corrosion there causing that. But I don't. There's a possibility that it's a factory defect and they just put some gluck in there. But otherwise, if these seals leak, that leads to corrosion, because then the water lays in there and could corrode these structural parts here. Well, this is a pretty good airplane. There's a bunch of little things wrong with it, but it's the best example of a 10-year-old airplane you're going to find. It has fairly low hours. It started its life in Houston and then moved to Arizona for a couple years, but the rest of the time it spent its life in the Virgin Islands, which isn't a good sign. But fortunately, it was equipped to be a seaplane. It has everything but the floats on it. So the interior of the airplane is zinc chromated. That's what you saw, the green back in the empennage of the airplane. So that's the good part. So we're not really worried about corrosion. You got a real good airframe here. You got a high time engine, and this is it. This is the only one like this for sale. All the rest either are much older and beat up, because these are really commercial airplanes. They're used to haul freight and all kinds of stuff. So there's not many that were privately owned like this that just had passengers in it. So this is kind of a rare find.